Hi, welcome back to Glen Forge. And today we are with Mr. Paul Graham here, wood carver and blacksmith or knifesmith.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yes. So thank you for having us here, Paul. I really appreciate you letting us come to your humble abode and your little hovel of blacksmithing.
Not too many people get to come in here.
I know, that's good. Huh?
That's why it's way back in the middle of
Oh,
nowhere.
I feel awesome. I feel special. It's great. So could you maybe tell us what got you into blacksmithing? What got you into doing wood carving and blacksmithing?
Well, I've always been an artist since I was a little kid. I did a lot of drawings on, any kind of paper I could get my hands on, and then as things evolved, I met a blacksmith, and I went just be around him as much as I could. It was fascinating for me to see, hot metal and how you could shape it with a hammer. And I worked with him for a while, and we did some volunteer work up at the Catoctin Mountain Park at there. They had a forge up there.
Oh, okay, that's pretty sweet.
And then I went on to, jumping ahead, I went to art school in Baltimore at the Maryland Institute, and I was able to do design work too. I had a really good draftsman. So I designed stuff, and we made chandeliers and pot racks and hand railings and lighting and stuff for, clients.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed that and learned even more about how you can shape metal with, either a hand hammer or a power hammer. And it just was a fascinating, you can, basically when you heat it up, you can look into the molecular structure of it, and it just felt so organic to me, and I was fascinated by it. And then that progressed into knife making.
Awesome.
And the same thing, to shape the steel, but to learn how to heat treat it was a whole process altogether. And
Oh, I know. That's making knives is so different from is like a completely different world from making just anything else. Especially when it comes to like the patience involving it.
Yeah,
you
have to think many stages in advance.
Yes,
and that's
yes.
part of the entry. You don't know exactly. You have a good idea in your mind what you want to make, but as it starts to form under the hammer, sometimes you might want to leave some of that in there or refine it. So I've been making knives for about 25 years. I went to the Bill Moran School in Washington, Arkansas in 2016 because I wanted to be able to learn the process of heat treating and get a consistent result each time without wondering, and testing, my own knives. I wanted to get them a little bit more refined before I started making, better and more difficult knives. So I like my knives to be used. Knives are tools; they always have been, and my knives may not be as pretty as some, but I'm happy when people tell me they really enjoy using them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've actually.
It's man's first tool. Man's first tool.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a knife, it would be very difficult to essentially create a lot of the things that we needed back and to make everything else
you could skin an animal, you could whittle something to make an additional tool, or defend yourself if necessary. And some of them guys nowadays even are making like not necessarily replicas but modern fighting knives. I hope my knives are never used to harm anybody, but
exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah.
they're pretty intimidating.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, knives in general are very intimidating, no matter what. But I mean, that's what I think that's so fascinating about blades in general. I mean, like there's an amazing aesthetic to them.
Yep, I learned to respect them a lot. I've only had one boo-boo, and it was that one right there, and that's about 3.5 inches. And I put my heel and my hand on there and wiggled my thumb. I said, Okay, it's all downhill from here because my thumb still works. But
Yeah, no, I know. I cut myself actually right here on one of my knives. And it was so sharp I didn't feel it at
Yeah.
first. Go across my finger go across, and
Yeah.
that was not fun.
a little bit of duct tape goes a long way.
Yeah, I had to kind of like wrap it up and then go to the
Yeah.
urgent care, and that was just a fun day. But like,
Yeah.
hey,
It's
that's the price of working with this kind of stuff.
I wasted the time, but yeah.
No, but thank you. I guess another question I would have, what is the thing that you've enjoyed creating? Was there ever a specific project?
No, I can't stick to one thing.
No.
I
Okay.
can't.
Okay. Yeah.
And for music, I paint and draw. I call myself an artist craftsman because I can think it, I can draw it, and then I can turn it into reality.
All right.
And many times I'm either thinking about the next project late at night, what I'd like to create next. I just, I'm a very creative person, so I mix it up and keep life, interesting. But as you can see, I've collected tools for about, I'm 67, so I've been collecting tools since I was 15. I've had my first anvil when I was 15.
Oh, okay.
Um,
But there was I guess in terms of a knife, was there any particular knife that was incredibly special to you, or was there like your first knife, or I'm just curious. No, or just
most of my first knives were pretty small because of my equipment. I didn't have a professional grinder at the time. I was
Right.
using these small grinders here, and that restricted me in some respects. But
Yeah.
I've made some larger knives, and I've never had the desire to make a sword. I just don't see the purpose.
It's a lot of work. It's different from a knife. I mean, it's
Right. It's like I said, I want my knives are tools. I want them to be used, so I make them so that they're extremely durable and maintain a good cutting edge and practical. So I have several that I can't part with. I've made them with my heart, and I'll try and hold on to them for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like how you say that you don't necessarily have a particular thing that you find special. It's like all this is very important, or everything that you've done.
Promise and all different kinds of art. But,
I agree. No, that's a good. That's a great way to see it. I mean, I technically every project you make is, it's incredibly special. It's important.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's unique. There's only one knife like that in the world.
Absolutely.
It's not a.
Doesn't
I won't
matter.
name names, but the stuff you can buy in Walmart.
Exactly. No. Well, that's the thing. When you make it by hand, even if it's a Bowie knife, it's still a Bowie knife made by you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what gives its uniqueness, I think, and distinction from every knife in existence, because you made it, and that's what makes it ultimately unique.
And I had never considered making a Bowie knife when I went to knife making school, but I got to Arkansas and I went to the museum in Little Rock, and they have one of all the original masters from the American Blacksmiths Society. And I called my wife when I got out of there. I said, I've seen more Bowie knives a day than I've seen in my entire life. The Arkansas, they like their pig stickers.
Yeah. No, I bet. That's where that's where the Bowie knife was invented. And
well, that's where there was larger knives, but the reason that Mr. Moran made his first school in Washington, Arkansas, was 'cause that's where a blacksmith named James Black purportedly made the first Bowie knife for Resin Bowie, who gave it to Jim Bowie. And the Bowie knife is considered the quintessential American blade, as in they didn't make those in the Mediterranean, European countries, or stuff like that. That it's the backwoods country boy of Arkansas, and you had a one-shot gun, i.e. either a flintlock or a,
Yep.
or a, and then after that, it was whatever, if the fight needed to continue, then you went to something sharp,
Exactly.
tomahawk or a big knife. And the Bowie knife, the blade is like 16 3/4 inches
Yeah,
long.
it's like basically a short sword.
Yeah, I was fascinated with it when I saw it.
Yeah, no, those are really cool. It's amazing to me how some knives are still categorized as knives at a certain point.
You can in Texas you can carry a gun down the street, a pistol on your hip, but you can't carry a Bowie knife.
That's
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 Because a
insane.
Bowie knife is just for mayhem.
I know it's like basically just a giant machete. It's just basically a machete.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean that's the evolution of it, and Resin had some others made for his brother and for other dignitaries, and
Oh, really?
yeah, there's I mean everybody had one.
Yeah.
If you're going out to the saloon, you gotta be packing something, and the visible, the visible.
Oh
good
yeah,
knife.
very easy to
Yeah,
notice.
say I don't think I want to mess with that guy.
I guess another question. It's like because you got into wood carving, or like was that was kind of implemented along the way, right? Like was
That started early too. I was probably in my early teens when I made my first wood carving out of a fence post off my dad's horse farm. And,
okay, cool.
It was an articulated thing, and I gave it to my sister who lived in Baltimore, and it was promptly taken, by somebody who desired it as well, So,
Awesome.
then I started doing more wood carving once I got the hold of some good, some nice wood, and had some other ideas in my head, and it's just so relaxing when I'm creating something like down here. I can't think about anything else. To me, it's like fishing. When I got a line in the water, the rest of the world goes away. And the same with, I focus on what needs to be done. And people who ask me, well, how do you? I do takeaway sculptures. A lot of people are like, with clay, you add clay to the sculpture to create what in your mind's eyes, is right. Well, when you're doing takeaway, like as in, the old school sculptures, they say, well, how do you do that? I said, well, you have in your eyes, in your mind, what you want to create, and you have to remove everything else until you are satisfied with the end result. So once again, you have to have forethought and think like 3 or 4 stages ahead. How is everything going to affect everything else during the process? So, once again, it's fascinating, and, it's relaxing. And on top of that, you're making something unique. And it brings me joy. It brings other people joy. They look at it and they laugh and smile, or,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of your wood carvings has been like, for that handle example, I love this. I love your...
Yeah, that's deer antler there.
Yeah, your use of deer antlers and how you carve them. And
these are getting ready to be assembled. They haven't been glued up, but they're
sorry,
almost
yeah.
ready to go. And this is actually a rebuild of a very nice German knife that the handle was destroyed. So I cut these washers, I call them washers, out of various materials. And then I have a method of gluing it all up together, and then I put a pin through the, to make it stable. And I got various blades laying around here, unfinished. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's just fascinating. I want to get into more wood carving. I'm trying to, at least just for my handles and for the etching work that I want to do for my swords down the road. But that's definitely takes a lot of dedication. I feel like in a lot of ways, wood carving takes some more patience. I mean, does that take a while to carve this? Is it like
that's deer antler there, so that's not wood.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Deer,
No.
sorry, the deer
Yeah, that's
antler.
a
Yeah.
deer
So
antler.
when you carve the deer antler, does that take a while to kind of?
Yeah, I use a Dremel a lot, and other people use Fordham tools. They're rotary,
Right.
high-speed rotary cutters,
Yeah.
and you can carve into the ends of them. And I have some I'll show you in a little bit that I have carvings in,
Yeah, great. Yeah.
and that are just another method of I call knife making jewelry for men. Because jewelry, there's endless possibilities of what you can make with, silver wire, silver bar, this jewel, that jewel, or whatever, and you can, you can make it an endless variety of items. Well, it's pretty much the same with knives. You can, the blade can be curved, it can be Damascus, it can be blunt for whatever specialty need you have, and so you just have to decide what you want it to look like and try and make it practical, as in sturdy and cool, And then you have to make, one of my least favorite things about knife making is sheath work. I mean, I've learned to do it, but it's just another whole craft you have to learn to, because when you sell somebody a knife, you can't just hand it to them, wrap it in newspaper or something. That they need a sturdy sheath to be able to.
Right, absolutely.
You can just shove it in your pocket. It's not going to be good for you in the long run.
Or you don't want it to fall out in a very awkward time.
Right. So, that's another thing, you have to learn. And that's a craft that's been going on for centuries as well. Making the leather and...
Yes, absolutely. The sheath making in itself is, like its own...
Yeah, people that are really good at it, I mean, they got to charge for it, so you.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't blame them.
Double your money in the price of your knife because you had somebody else make it, or you have to make it yourself.
I think 9 times out of 10 you definitely get what you pay for when it comes to stuff like that, because I think that, especially with some of the leather, like those crazy, like I've seen crazy leather patterns on sheaths alone, and they were a couple $200, but they're beautiful.
Absolutely. I spent hours and hours on it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I took them hours. Like it takes a long time, and like in itself is basically like the type of it's on leather smithing or
So
leather.
you see all these materials. I mean, this provides me the opportunity to make a number. I have a lot of wood stored downstairs, and it's got to be kept away from bugs and. A lot of stuff you just see around the corners and handle material, and it affects what your capabilities are if you don't have the material. So hence I collect a lot of stuff that people say, "What are you gonna use that for?" I said, "I don't know yet, but I got a pretty good idea."
Awesome.
So I make some wooden handles. I like the deer antler handles because. No, I'm making hunting knives pretty much, and I want people to, like I said, use them and take them out into the woods. And personally, I'm not going to take $1,000 or $500 knife out into the woods. So
yeah, no, I wouldn't either.
No, but people do. I've never had that kind of money.
I would be displaying that in my home over losing that into a ravine.
So what I'm getting at is. And if I can't sell them at a practical price, they're not going to be used. And I want to keep them in a particular range because, I learned how to make Damascus and stuff like that, and it's fascinating, to do all the welding in the forge and what have you. But this is my own personal opinion. It makes a pretty knife, and you can make some very, very interesting patterns out of it. It doesn't make a better knife. And Bill Moran will tell you the same thing. One of his pamphlets, he wrote in there that I think it was, I'm not sure what the steel designation was, but he says in handwriting, right next to it, he put, "as tough as Damascus." And if he says that, then I believe that, because he made a lot of knives and he tested a lot of knives. And if he tells me that it's as tough, then it's fine. It's cheaper than... It'll take me a day or so to make the steel before I start making a blade out of it. And I have to, show that I know how. Just to get in the click.
Absolutely.
But I've never taken a Damascus. I've never skinned a deer with a Damascus knife. I use my own little. I have a knife that's about this size. I've been using for 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you need practical over like.
Yeah, we're not skinning moose. We don't have any moose here, you know.
No, I hope not. Oh my goodness, that would be insane to run into moose out here. Um, uh, yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it. You know, not trying to overcharge people, giving them what they need over what they.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
they can afford it.
yeah, like making it affordable for people.
I sold one the other day for $3.50. It was a tiny little knife. It was Damascus, and it had a beautiful handle on it. It had some of this
Oh,
man-made stone in there. It's see, it's got the gold flecks in there and everything.
yeah, it's
and,
neat.
and there's some other malachite. That's what I'm saying. So all these different types of materials that you can put together to make mostly the handles. But jewelry for men. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is a good way to put it. Jewelry for men. I like that. That is and then that's the just the small intricacies of just making this stuff. And like you said, you really just get into a mindset when you're making this stuff. You get very focused. I try to be the same way. You know, I have actually like I'm like ADHD, but like when I'm making stuff, it definitely like I really try to like focus and just black out everything else when you're, you know, making,
Because you're putting yourself into it and you're putting your name on it.
exactly.
And,
It's got to be, I gotta like it because I don't want to spend like, you know.
I've never had anybody bring one back to me.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
I have a lot of repeat customers. So that makes me proud, you know.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah. My nugs are guaranteed, but if you break it, chances are you abused it. You used it as a pry bar. It's not a pry bar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for cutting. It's got a cutting edge, and the rest of it supports the cutting edge. You know, but if you were to stick it in somewhere and then crank down on it, you know, God bless you, it might bend it, but you ain't gonna bend it back, and you might snap it off.
Absolutely. I guess I have like another or final question. What, like, for anyone who wants to get into this, how would you recommend someone to you know, get into bladesmithing, wood carving, or black? Yeah. Anything?
Well, you know, this might sound like a crazy answer to you, but YouTube's just got a whole lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
That's what I use sometimes for stuff I've
and
made
it's
in the past
visual,
decade.
and you know, I have hundreds and hundreds of blacksmithing and knife making books, and they have designs and what have you in there. And naturally, you know, you want to do like what you're doing now is reach out to people like mine that had to start somewhere. They start from scratch too, you know.
Yeah.
We'd like to pass it on like Mr. Moran did. If Mr. Moran didn't pass his knowledge on for free, then the world would be different, and especially in the knife making world.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
He's the father of modern Damascus steel.
Yes,
And
he is.
He
Yeah.
made it right up there in his little shop in Jefferson. And
Yeah,
Middletown, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize how much of a huge impact he had.
Yeah.
Like I had to look this after I went to the museum. I was like, oh my goodness, how do I not
He
know
was
about this guy?
That's the most humble guy you'd ever want to meet, you know.
I know. I really wish I could have met him. But it's he sounds like he's been.
But years
guy.
ago,
Yeah.
like in just say medieval times or in Viking times or whatever, if you were the baddest bladesmith around, you didn't dare tell anybody your secrets. Because when your secrets got out, you were as good as dead. But he, you know, didn't have those circumstances.
No, luckily
and he
today.
was able to just freely give all of this magical knowledge to the world. And I mean, freely give it to anybody who wanted to learn it. So he's got a little.
But yeah, YouTube and books and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good thing to bring up. Yeah, YouTube's a great source for anybody at home. Use that. That is like
They'll teach you how to sharpen.
I know.
All kinds of very, very valuable stuff.
and you can just imitate and watch. That is the great thing about or at least in terms of technology in that way. It's like you really, I mean, I was lucky to have a mentor. I've had a mentor when I lived in Shepherdstown. I met my mentor there, and he taught me like everything. But especially recently, I've just been doing things on my own. But you know, if I ever need to learn something, I just watch YouTube. And you know, because I think he was teaching me knife smithing, and it took us a while for us to get to a point where he was helping me. I was able to like get to making swords. But now it's like, now that I know how to make swords, I'm kind of just taking things into my own hands and especially more so now, like I said, using YouTube as a reference to make, okay, how do I do this for the sword? How do I, how do I make this handle? Oh, how do I, do it this way? And you can learn it. You don't really necessarily need to take a class on it.
And you may not get it right the first 3, 4,
Oh,
5
absolutely
times.
not. But the thing is, like you said, it's like information. I believe that, especially with that, like you said, it should be free. It should be like that kind of knowledge is so important to pass down.
It's like,
and having access to.
I liken it to some of these younger modern guitar players that are like 16 and can just play everything. Whereas Eric Clapton and somebody, they had to learn it from either meeting these guys or going to concerts and watching their fingers. But now you just, punch one on the internet and up comes, the baddest guitar player in the world. And the kids just sit there and emulate them. And at 15, 16 years old,
they got it.
They're the stuff.
Yeah, yep. That's the thing. That's it's the generations past that have helped us get to this point.
Right, exactly.
That is a very good point to make. Always remember that if what you've learned or what you've been able to learn so quick, like now, is, I'm going to bet, comparably much quicker than what past generations had to go through to learn it. Especially with like I said, like with bladesmithing. I mean, it still takes time and discipline, but the fact that you have these better ways to access it on your own is perfect. So yeah,
it breaks your heart when you go out and test your own knives. When like in the school, we made knives for 3 or 4 days, and then the 5th day or whatever, we destroyed them all. And my wife says, "What'd you do today?" I said, "Well, I broke up everything that I've been doing for the last 4 days just to see what the crystalline structures were, and put them in a vise and crank them down, or beat them over something else." And
experimenting is important.
On your own, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, so always experiment.
Yeah, don't expect. I mean, they're all dispensable. You can throw them in the corner in a bucket,
or you can melt them down later.
Yeah, or you
recycle them.
Send them to the scrap yard.
That too. Another good way to recycle the. Yeah,
live and learn.
Well, yeah. This was a great interview. Like, thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add, or?
No, I would like to just say that youngsters, put that phone down for a little while and go learn how to make something. And
yes.
Once you get good at it, it'll be a lifelong skill that nobody can take away from you.
I agree.
You'll forget those video games after a while.
Agreed. That is a very good point. Always like having something like that, like this craft is like giving me way more fulfillment. I'm glad that I got into it. I mean, I love making stuff. Having that thing that that ability to make something, it is fascinating, and the most satisfying is making it for somebody and who's really pleased with it. That's the thing that kind of keeps me going and doing this kind of stuff. I love making stuff and making it for people.
I like it when people come back and buy more.
Exactly.
They know they got a good product, and
that is the absolutely most satisfying part. Well, again, thank you you very much, Paul Graham, everybody, and you have a great day.